Hey, welcome to another weekly edition of the critiques that we're doing here at the Bryan Peterson School of Photography. I am Bryan Peterson, and it's my turn to once again be part of this wonderful opportunity to look at some of the work being done by photographers throughout the world. And we again want to encourage all of you to continue to make your submissions, which we're enjoying immensely. We wish we could look at every single one and critique, but unfortunately our time is limited. This week we have another 5 images, and we begin with, first up, an image taken by the photographer Elizabeth Hogg, and this is, according to her description, a friend of hers when her friend was younger. This is Kata. Now, my first reaction is not a whole lot different than my final reaction, and that is simply to say this is a wow image. What I love about it is the intensity of the eyes, the reflections in the eyes, good catch lights, and the impossible to avoid making eye contact with the subject. I mean, this young little girl is looking right at any of us who care to look at this photograph with a level of intensity that is clearly in the realm of an amazing amount of intimacy in terms of the connection. There's not an ounce of shyness in this portrait, and it's an indication, obviously, of the young girl's trust, also of the photographer, and of course in this case is Elizabeth. It's a phenomenally frame-filling composition, well done. Normally I find myself often saying, you need to get closer, you need to get closer. But in this case, I would say nothing of the kind. You couldn't be any closer. This is just, again, fabulous. I like the fact that we are cutting into the hat. Without it, of course, we'd be cutting in a bit to the top of the head. And again, this is my kind of compositional portraiture that I like, because it does arouse in us a level of intimacy that we share with the subject because we are feeling that close. I have one very small nitpick, and it's right here. These little whiskers coming off of this, obviously a teddy bear of some kind, or a lion, I'm not really sure. They interfere as what I call very subtle, distracting, but subtle mergers, as if this is going into her lips and whatnot. And I obviously feel that that's just a small thing. And so it's a simple matter of going up here to the healing brush and just running that along through here, like so. And just like that, almost just like that, we've cleaned things up. Maybe this little thing here, like so. The trouble with the healing brush, let's face it, once you start, there's one there, and here's, before you know it, you're going crazy. So we're just going to leave it alone at that. That's perfectly fine. Other than that, I have really no problem with it. It's a fabulous image, and I don't know what it looked like in color, but I will add too that this is a tremendous black and white image as well. So great job, Elizabeth. You keep shooting, obviously. Next up, we have Aniek de Decker. Now, what's interesting about Aniek is that she is 50 years old and just days away from completing her studies as a photographer, and she hopes soon to have her degree in photography. And needless to say, she said she's quite anxious about getting this photograph critiqued. And it's a fabulous image. I have done this myself in several workshops in Venice, as well as my students. It's a real simple exposure, and by simple what I mean is that you need a tripod, you need, of course, to get up early, and if you know me, I've often been quoted as saying that both food and sleep are overrated. There's too much going on in life. You need to get out there and keep shooting, and food can wait, as well as coffee, as well as sleep. So I know for a fact that Aniek is up bright and early here in Venice, and by the looks of the trees, we're clearly here in the winter time. I can't say with any real certainty, but my guess is this is probably February, March. Nonetheless, why are the boats blurry? Some of you might be asking yourselves. Yet surrounding all this, we have sharpness on the stairs as well as this little pier deck thing here, the lamppost. Obviously, the church and monument in the background. They're all sharp. Sky is sharp. So this is caused by the long exposure. And with you being on tripod, she's able to record the rocking, the movement of these boats. And the water, of course, becomes more still during this exposure time. Exposure time wise, by the way, I don't have the information in front of me, unfortunately, but these are in the 4 to 8 second exposure ranges. And subsequently, this accounts for the motion ghosting effect that you see here. I'm not bothered by it at all. In fact, it's welcome. It's a nice tension to offset the rather calm and tranquility that is pronounced throughout this image. So you have this nice little interruption here. Kind of similar, I suppose, to a bird singing and breaking the silence in the morning. And it's kind of like what these boats are doing. They're making some noise by their rocking, by their motion. And that's nice. To me, it's welcomed on this beautiful sunrise in Venice. The only criticism I have, and it's definitely minor, is I like the continuity. Blue, 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 blue on all these gondolas. And then, oh my goodness gracious, over here we have what is a water taxi. And it kind of disrupts the pattern. If we think of this as people singing a wonderful tune, over here we can easily argue that this is a child that's appearing at the concert, and over here this little child is crying. It gets our attention. As my father would say, who was a minister, careful Al, during a church service, as my dad would preach, he would often say that crying babies should be like promises. In other words, they should be carried out. So, with that in mind, I'm thinking maybe this boat should go. So there's several ways to do that, although the easiest way would be simple crop. And we want to keep it proportional, so maybe somewhere in here, actually that's not quite enough. Let's start over. Maybe somewhere, whoops, try it again, right there. That's too high now. One more time. I'll get it right. Let's try right about, okay, I'm not going to worry about it. Let's do the crop here. There we go. Now the boat's gone, and what little bit is left, what we can easily do, if you're not familiar with this tool, for things like this, it just makes things a whole lot cleaner. You go up here and you're going to go edit, fill, it's content aware, boom, just like that, and look at that, now it's all cleaned up. If that was too fast for you, just slow things down on the video and you can see that happening. Now we have continuity. Blue, 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 all the way through, and there's no crying babies to interrupt the overall composition. Now, I'm not suggesting you do this in Photoshop. I'm suggesting that you could have changed your angle of view while you were setting up this composition and eliminated that water taxi from view. Other than that, this is a stupendous exposure, and my hat's off to you for getting up early and foregoing sleep to get the shot. Sometimes that is necessary. So good job on this, Anik, and good luck with your getting your diploma, which I'm sure you will. And may you continue to keep shooting for years and years and years. Next up, we have Randy Coldham. Now, what's fascinating about Randy's photograph is this was not planned. He was actually there to shoot another train, expecting it to come from an opposite direction, when all of a sudden he turns around because he hears the noise of an oncoming train, and sure enough, here it is. And this just goes to prove that, as the old saying is that, what's that saying? I can't remember the saying. Something about, you can see the end of the tunnel. And then sometimes the lights in the tunnel, there are nothing more than the oncoming train. So be careful. Anyway, we got a train here. And it's fabulous. The backlight on this is phenomenal. In fact, Randy goes on to say that this was completely unrehearsed, unplanned. He heard the train, he turned around as it's coming, he said, oh my gosh, I got to shoot that. And fortunately for us, he pretty much nailed the exposure. He does say that he did some adjusting in Lightroom accordingly, some minor adjustments and whatnot. And what's fascinating about this, I will say, he did not initially like the people that also were in the photograph when he turned around that were photographing the same train. he then later realized in post that they became a really important and integral part of this overall composition. I couldn't agree more. Not planned, they just happened to be there, but notice these diagonal lines right here that lead the eye. If you didn't have people there, this would be an eye leading you to nowhere. But now we say, oh, we're going to go look at those people. Then it goes kaboom to another diagonal up this way. So it's like, whoa, people, oh, up here, boom, down, oh, people up here, boom. And look at this, kaboom. I mean, this thing is filled with so much movement, you're going to need seasick pills. Of course, I'm kidding. It's welcomed movement. It's fabulous. It's full of energy. I love it. I love it. I love it. You got a nice diagonal here. Boom, like that. Diagonal here. Boom. You got another one. Boom here. Another one here. Boom. And then this thing here, kind of a curvilinear diagonal. You know, it's a little soft because of the curvilinear lines. It's not so jagged, so pointed. It's a fabulous, fabulous image. However, the one thing that stuck with me when I first saw this and continues to do so as I look at it, this is also, and I'm not the expert, that belongs to Athena Carey, our black and white professional photographer, black and white photographer extraordinaire here at the school. But I think this would be a phenomenal black and white. Take a look, and then we'll have a little fun with it. We go a little tint on that, and next thing you know, we got old time photograph, sepia tone. I mean, this is wonderful. So, something to think about, Randy, because really and truly there's not a whole lot I would do to this image other than consider also making it into a black and white. Compositionally, you nailed it. Great job. So thanks again for the submission. Moving on, we have Rob Castro. This is one of the most sexiest, if that's even a possible word to apply to a gun photograph, but it's incredibly sexy in the respect it's selective focus. The focus is on everything about it in terms of curvilinear. And if we think of curvilinear, such as this curve, this curve, this curve, this curve, curvilinear shapes, for the most part, are thought of as being somewhat soft and sensual, as opposed to very hard, rigid, diagonal types of shapes, which are very pointed, decisive, rigid, very stubborn. Again, whereas this, the curvilinear lines and shapes, have a tendency to be, ironically, considered to be passive, calm, tranquil. And yet here we're looking at a gun, which we all know, historically, throughout history, these things are yeah, let's just get it out there. They're not something to mess around with. They have certainly cost people a tremendous amount of pain, not the least of which is the lives that have been lost because of guns, as well as, one can argue, the lives that have been saved because of guns. But nonetheless, as a gun still life, I like the black background. I like the selective focus of this. If I have any criticism at all, it would have to be, that's funny, I just got an email, which I'm sure you're able to see there. My insurance company is wanting me to contact them. Nonetheless, this is one of those images that it's really, really well done. Controversial. Let's just call a spade a spade. You got the whole division here, 50-50. Half agree, feel it's necessary. The other half wishes they were completely unnecessary. But back to my point. I think overall the lighting here, I wish this wasn't necessarily a green color. I'm thinking something more blue, maybe even red, in terms of gels if you're using a flash, or in terms of a solid light with a red gel or a blue gel on it would be nice. I'm going to try to see if that's even possible here with an adjustment layer. Let's just do a color balance adjustment layer and add some blue to that. More cyan as well. Or red. Let me just see what red might do. We go orange, magenta. Let's try that and see what happens. So then we make our mask, a little quick shortcut here. Then we go back here and grab the paintbrush and do something like so. This is a very, very quick look at this, and cover everything green. Maybe. I'm not so sold on that either. All right, let's just, for the heck of it, why not? We're having fun. take another layer, and this time we'll do color balance once again. Let's go ahead and try that blue, which is kind of nice. And we'll come back here, make the quick mask, and then we'll go back over here and go make a big, huge thing. But let's make the opacity on this maybe 50%, like so. Get up here, maybe over here. Maybe. Again, a lot of fun you can have with this, that's for sure. Let's go back to where we were and just leave things alone for now. So, again, color, a change would be, I think, a welcome change. Other than that, it's a fabulous composition. And again, the selective focus on this, clearly where a large lens opening is used. I don't know, because there's no specs that Rob offered up. Don't even know what camera or lens he used. But clearly it's a lens with a large lens opening, which accounts for the selective focus. But anyway, great job on the composition, Rob. Maybe some color gels would dress this up just a touch more to make it that much more interesting. And finally, we come to a beautiful photograph from St. Thomas, and I hope I get this right, Banja Luka in Slovenia. I apologize for my Slovenian. I don't speak it, but I think it's Banja Luka is the name of the town in the, St. Thomas, actually St. Thomas and then Banja Luka in Slovenia. It's absolutely beautiful, but I will say there's something missing, and I say missing because the proportions of this image are roughly 16 by 9 or 14 by 9. Let me just double check that. I think that's what it was. Okay, 15 by 8.5. And if I do a 17-inch, I should come up with proportionately out of camera crop with no, out of camera, what the sensor delivers. This should register as 11, but it doesn't. So, or another way, we could do 12, and if I do 12 on the width, then that tells me that the height needs to be 8. Again, this is based on a full frame or a crop sensor, doesn't matter. But the proportions need to be 12 by 8, 17 by 11, whatever. But they're not. So that tells me that in this case, the height should be 8, but it's 6.6, that we're missing something from the top or from the bottom that Bor, B-O-R, that's the photographer's name, has cropped. And speaking of Bor, on the play on words, this image is anything but boring. This is absolutely fabulous. The light is tremendous. The early morning fog. This is clearly early morning, you guys. You're not going to get this shot in the late evening, afternoon light. It's not possible. You have what looks like some frost. Like I said, the early morning remnants of a low hanging fog in the valley. I would go so far as to suggest that if the crop was here at the bottom, then I'm going to assume it's something that is very distracting. If the crop is at the top because there's too much blue sky, and you wanted to eliminate that, I got no problem with that. I appreciate that. But my only trouble with the image is just the absence of why did we lose 1.5 inches of this? And it makes me wonder about it. And the way to obviously shut me up is to make your crop more proportional. So what I mean by that is that you would come in here and take out a couple of inches, maybe come in right around so, and then by doing so you're more proportional, and subsequently I wouldn't be sitting here asking myself what's missing. So we're not going to crop that, but that's what all I've got to say about it. More importantly, lens choice, fabulous. It's perfect for this scene. Secondly, so is the exposure. This exposure is absolutely dead on flawless. I don't know how much, if any, post-processing you did on it. The only thing I'm sensing here is that it looks like the high pass filter was used to account for the incredible sharpness of this image. Other than that, I really wish I was there next to you when you made this image, because I would certainly love to have this same composition, something very similar to this in my collection. It's absolutely fabulous, beautiful light once again, and I'm thrilled that you're one of these people who gets up early and recognizes you can always sleep later in the day, and you can always grab some coffee later in the day. So, nonetheless, there we have for the week 5 wonderful images, And again, thank you so much for sending those in to us, and we'll look forward to once again seeing more. And hey, this is Bryan Peterson reminding all of you, until next time, you keep shooting.